Hello everyone and welcome to week 41 of the Gran Turismo weekly race guide. Bit of a weird one this week. We start off with race A and we're at Maggiore East 2. A very rare track that we don't use often at all. And we're in a very odd car in the Honda S660. We'll get to that in just a second. Let's have a look at the race details then. We're racing 3 laps here at Maggiore East 2. It's a grid start and we're on the sports hard tyres. Now this car is slow, very slow, very slow. So it's quite a boring race if I'm honest. It's too slow. You know, some of the slower cars that we race are good. This situation, I would argue, quite bad. Let's jump to the race then and let's find out exactly what happened. Here we are then at the start. Look how tiny these cars are as well. Obviously, a bit of a reference to the old Honda S cars that we had in previous Gran Turismos. Only 10 people made the race. I think most people have tried this race out and gone, it's pretty boring. Our brake balance -1. I'm not sure that really matters in this, if I'm honest. You don't brake that often. There are some braking zones, though. As we kick off the race, then, as you can see, you don't need traction control either for the start. The cars are that slow. As we're just going to head down towards turn 1 then. Jay and Bree in this one. And Bree's actually just going to instantly move over to the left in a second with indicator. I'm assuming something happened IRL. Hope you're okay, mate. Literally just backed out of it completely. And everyone carries on through. So, yeah, hopefully you're okay. Well, through the left we go. A little bit of contact there up ahead with Svetlio and Madman. But we continue on all the same. In third gear. Slowly accelerating. And, oh my word, it's honestly so painful. And you short shift this car as well. So you're properly down in the rev range. We're going to head into one of my favourite sets of corners in the game then. The S's here. As you see, Madman and George here going side by side. A little bit of contact. I'm not sure if they could see each other or not. It was a bit weird because look at that. There was contact, but it wasn't huge contact. As we come through here and then into the right. And the car just oversteering a little bit. You notice we didn't have to brake there at all, really. There is a bit of control in terms of, you know, stopping the oversteer that you get in this car, but that's about it. So Madman had a bit of a rough entry into the previous corner, so we're going to come around here. We're going to look down the inside here. I'm just looking to try and overtake, but the car's that slow, it's very hard. Come into here, I aberrate myself just a little bit, so the car rotates round, and we managed to stop our car, and Skull Crusher gives us a nice little bump there to get us up to speed again. And through we go, and it's just going to be status quo. So let's forget the next lap, because it's pretty boring. Let's go to the last lap then, where we're going to have the lap guide as well. I'm going to look for a move on Madman. The slipstream on weak, of course, so it means we can get the slipstream of the German up ahead. As you head to turn 1 then, you're going to be on the right-hand side here. And the braking zone is very late here. You actually want to use the end of that barrier. Now, I'm braking slightly early because of a car on my inside. But try and get as close to the end of that barrier as possible. That's where you want to brake as you enter the hairpin. Stay in third gear. Now, we've actually slowed up a little bit too much here just because of what's happening up ahead. A little bit of contact there when it went 3 wide for a moment. But we made 1 position and we've got the German on our right-hand side. But yeah, stay in third gear for that corner. Short shift a little bit then to 4th gear. And then 4th gear for a long time now. So me and the German side by side through here. It's just flat out. It really is. And because we're going so slow, you can actually move across quite early here. Now, as we come into here, you might want to lift a little bit. You don't have to, but I was behind somebody, so I did. And then you can cut a lot here on the left. Just make sure you don't go over the grey bit. And then once again, into this right. Just balance the throttle a little bit. You will have to lift a little bit for that one. You do drop it a little bit. Try and, if you can get to 80, that is the peak apex speed for that right-hander. And down the hill then, this is our next braking zone, and it's just after this curb ends. Now, I'm going to take this a slightly different line because I'm going for the move on the German. However, I think 4th gear is better if it stays smooth. Otherwise, you will have to drop to 3rd. I dropped to 3rd here, just on the inside. Notice how the rear rotates here. So the German's going to have an excellent run out of there, and it's going to be status quo for me, unfortunately. And you'll see that short shift there again, just after the gear suggestion number. So I'm going to carry on up the hill then. As you can see, the car is really struggling up this hill. And it's going to be a little bit of a braking zone, but it's not massive. So I'm going to use the left-hand side there, just where that orange bit is. And then it goes to green. It's a tiny small brake. And then you want to turn in quite early. You want to cut a lot of this corner. The car will stay stable, stay in 4th gear. Cut it like that. That's beautiful cut. That's why I'm showing this lap and not another lap. And then through into the right-hander. Again, stay in 4th gear here. You can switch to 3rd and up to 4th. But I preferred 4th, if I'm honest. And then in towards this braking zone, where on the left-hand side, once again, it's that orange end of the barrier. That's what you're going to use in terms of your brake marker. This is drop into 3rd gear. Now, what you can do to stop oversteer is just go on the throttle a little bit as you brake, and it will stop the oversteer. As you see, the German got a lot, so I tried to get on the inside here. We're going so slow, I could try that move, but yeah, it's not going to work. And the German, of course, that last corner doesn't get a penalty. I did think the penalty maybe, but it's a little good race all the same in terms of with the German. But no, it's a boring race overall. What a slow and boring race. I would not advise doing this one. It's a bit tedious. If you want a low car control, yeah, maybe. But other than that, nah, it's definitely a no from me, this one. Nice to have a different combo, but definitely a no. Right, we're going to head to race B then, where we head to Spain. Which, of course, means Catalunya. Now, normally it's Group 3 here. Bit of an exception this week. It is Group 4. However, we've gone back to the old problem of the rolling starts, but we'll get to that shortly. Let's have a look at the race details then. We're racing 4 laps here at Catalunya. It's a rolling start. As I said, I've just mentioned there's a bit of an issue there. And we are starting on the racing medium tyres, and we'll finish on that as well. That's what we're racing on. Now, as you can see in the background, I chose the Subaru because that was mostly in the top 10. Now, there's a Lamborghini that you will have seen as well. That is up there, but Subaru pretty much dominating it. And it is a good car to use here, to be honest. Thanks to Mungino and driver's room for this livery. This was made a couple of weeks ago. You've seen it a few times. It's a lovely looking livery. Let's jump to the race then, and let's find out exactly what happened. Here we are then at the start of the grid. As you can see, Subaru, a popular choice. We've got a Lancer in there as well, with a Megane Trophy, Scirocco, and a Huracan to round out the entire selection of Group 4. Now, this is what I mean about the rolling start. They fixed Spa. They need to fix the other circuits. There is no reason why we are starting here. And unfortunately for the Lamborghini, starts in a very awkward position, as we're about to find out here. Heading into the chicane, they start really on the wrong foot here. It allows us to get a huge advantage through there. And because I know they're going to go towards the corner, I try and go around the outside here of the Lamborghini driver. Brake balance, by the way, I use 0 this time for the WRX. It might want to go a little bit rear bias, but hey, it worked for me on 1, so that's what I used in this race. We are going to go to a lap guide as well, as we always do in race B, but what a good little race there we had with the Lamborghini driver. Heading towards turn 1 then. I use the building more now than I use the flag marker, but both are relevant. As the point of the building gets to your screen, that's what I use. And then we're going to break into here and go side by side as well. Try and use all the curb on the inside there, and then use all the curb here as well. Some beautiful racing there with EWA, so shout out to you. And as you come into here, you want to lift off a little bit, balance the throttle, and as you see that first orange point in this long right-hander, as that hits the center of your screen, that's when you want to go flat out. You should be on the inside here, and you'll notice how it just makes the corner nice and easy. I use that in multiple games as well, not just Gran Turismo. In towards the right-hander here then, you want to use the line on the left-hand side. Just before that is when you want to brake. Drop a gear. Don't really want to drop 2 gears, to be honest with you. This is one of those corners where you do want to trail brake quite a little bit. Now, I didn't carry enough speed into the corner there, but I do keep it tight, and I would recommend keeping it tight as well. Don't do what the Scirocco did up ahead. On the right-hand side, that same building, I think it might be the same building we used earlier on. We're now using for this corner as well. So as it reaches the right-hand side of your screen, that's when you want to brake. Then you're going to drop to second gear in the Subaru, get it round and flat out as quick as you can out of that corner. And we're going to head down towards this complicated corner, and it's the same brake marker as always. This, where the curb starts to be created, that's when you want to let off the throttle, start braking, and only drop a gear here as well in a lot of cars. So we dropped the third gear here. Don't abuse the curb too much on the left, and then just try and straight line it as best you can on the right without going over the red and white curbs. Now this right-hander, I do this slightly wrong this lap. However, at the end of the curb here, you want to sort of lift off and let the car turn in just before the end of the curb in reality. You can see I was flat out there, and I had to brake a little bit during the corner because I carried a little bit too much speed. I didn't let off early enough. Now that does compromise it a lot. So if you let off a little bit earlier, the car will just go around nicely. This left-hander then, it's the flag marker on the right-hand side. Nice and easy. In the Subaru's got quite good brakes. So you can actually brake just after it as you head into this left-hander then. And once again, try and use the curb on the inside and then flat out instantly on the exit. 4-wheel drive in the Subaru. Nice and easy. Flip the curb on the left, and then this is all about just trail brake a little bit of just dabbing the brakes there. Now, when you see that part of the curb, that is when you want to accelerate. You can see I've got on 100% throttle here. The minute you see that, that's when you accelerate out this corner, and you will make the corner. I've never really seen anybody not make it by using that. Now, as we hit this next right-hander, as the time mark coincides with the red and white curbing, I can't remember what the word is. But as it goes across it, that's when you brake, you turn in. Now, unfortunately, this Rocco ran wide here. Now, heading towards the chicane, I started using the tarmac on the left-hand side. You can use the gantry above you, of course. That is there and very obvious to spot. But I just pointed that out this time. Rocco, unfortunately, just gives us a little bit of a tap there. Nothing major. They were trying to race clean. It wasn't, the Rocco's fault there, I would say. It was just a bit of a racing incident. And then the last corner is just flat out. And that is it in terms of a lap guide. However, we do have some racing. We've got Super GT Imi next. Obviously, we saw Imi last week with a little bit of dodgy driving. However, I didn't see any personally this week from Imi, so shout out to you. We do have a good race here. As you can see up ahead, there's a lot of people getting a lot of contact and a few penalties appearing as well. That began trophy very slow in a straight line. So what I was trying to do here is get the slipstream on the right-hand side, just so I could just ease my way past. Even this Subaru makes the Megane trophy look slow. Look at that. That's crazy to me. But up ahead, look at that. 3 wide heading towards turn 1. So I knew it was about to get spicy. They all sort of settle themselves out a little bit here, but I knew it was going to get spicy, and we were going to get involved, of course, because we caught them up. So we looked down inside a Skull Crusher here. Gap was always closing there, so I do avoid actually going for that move, just backed out of it a little bit here. I love the livery on Skull Crusher's kart, so a shout out to you. And as we head into here, I was thinking, right, well, let's try and go around the outside, but that wasn't really going to work, so I just pull into line, and I'm like, okay. So I can see what's coming up here. So you'll notice I pull out of this very quickly because I don't want to be involved in what I would call is going to be a crash. I thought that at the time. See a little bit of a crash there between Zozzy and Ollie. Skull gets on the inside of Ollie then, and then Zozzy just runs the third car out there. So I knew that was going to happen, which is why I wanted to avoid it, and I think that was, the best thing there, just being a bit smart with the situation and seeing what was happening in the distance. We know Zozzy's got a penalty there, so we know we're getting past. But this is how you do the corner properly. Notice how we carried the speed a lot better. And look at the run we got on Skull Crusher here. Absolutely fantastic run as we pass Zozzy with the penalty. And in towards the braking zone we go. Skull goes for the out braking. It does get it stopped, though, as well. And actually makes the corner beautifully. Good bit of defensive driving from Skull as we do that corner in P11. Just fast forward a little bit here. You see contact once again up ahead between the Portuguese driver and the Dutch driver. Portuguese driver, very smart there. Bit of contact, decides to cut the corner, doesn't get penalised for it, carries on with their racing. Do remember, if there's contact, you can cut a corner and it doesn't give you a penalty at the moment. So just be aware of that. It can be helpful in the grand situation. 3 wide then, turn 1. Obviously a scary moment, but I obviously know Skull already, so I was like, okay, we could probably make this work. Skull backs out of it, goes into 2x2, and we do get that job done. However, we're going to get past Leonard here now. So what can we do? What can we do to get past this Subaru? Ready into here. I was a bit too aggressive, so I had to delay the throttle a little bit. That allowed Skull to close up a little bit, and it cost me some time to Leonard up ahead. I'm sort of looking on the inside. I wasn't really going to go for it. I was just sort of trying to scare into a mistake, and Skull looked around the outside. Not going to quite work this time, so status quo here. As we head towards this left-hander, though, I'm using my normal brake marker, and unfortunately, I just go into the back of him, and I just lost a lot of braking efficiency. But Leonard makes the corner absolutely perfect. I'm not sure what happened there because it wasn't really a bounce or anything. It was bizarre, if I'm honest. It really was. The Skull just gets that a little bit wrong. So we're going to look on the inside of Skull now. Up into here. Very dangerous, but Skull sees it. Well played. Into this right-hander we go then. And once again, I'm looking for that inside curve. There's the tiniest of taps there. But I said to Skull to apologise after. I was like, no, it wasn't really your fault. That's the tiniest of taps ever. I mean, I'm trying to go around the outside, so it's mainly my fault for trying to go around the outside on quite a hard corner. So I didn't think anything of it personally, but we're going to finish in P11 there. I really do wish the rolling start was on this straight and a little bit closer together. I think that would have then been a fantastic race. This situation, it's all right. You can have a race. You've seen we've had a race there, so there is some racing to be had here for race B. But we're done here now. Let's head then to race C. Welcome to Sardinia then, specifically layout A2. So we're doing A in reverse. Doesn't come up too often, but, there always is normally some good racing here at the circuit. We are in Group 2, which does mean one make, technically, although people do try the other cars out, but generally speaking, it's GTR Fest. Let's have a look at the race details first of all. We're racing 12 laps here at Sardinia A2. It's a rolling start, which needs to be sorted out. Racing soft and medium tyres, both are required. Fuel usage ×2, tyre wear ×7. Very easy to understand. We are in the GTR. Livery is thanks to MS, Too Fast for You MS. Part of driver's room, of course. And in terms of this race, strategy is there a little bit, but it's all about really hoping you get a good lobby in terms of skills being very close. If skill set is very far apart, as you will see a little bit in this lobby, the race can become quite boring quite quickly. Let's find out then exactly what happened, and you'll see exactly what I mean. We are then at the start, as you see, GTR. And look, we've got an NSX, we have a Lexus, another NSX, an old school one for Doc Brown there in terms of that GTR, and a Lexus behind us as well. So I did mention this earlier, rolling starts. They sort it out at Spa, please sort it out everywhere else, Gran Turismo. Please, 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 because this is a bit silly, you know, P19, P20 starting here. They're already at a disadvantage. They don't need another one. So I did whack traction control on quite quickly just because, yeah, survive. A brake balance, I'll put +1 or 2. I used 2 in this instance, but I think 1 should be fine as well. Warm up your tyres when there's tyre wear, there's tyre temps. And be careful for turn 1. As you're about to see, Doc Brown is about to head to meet barrier there. Look at that, that was a smashing off. So you might want to just lift off on the first lap going into that corner because it can be a bit sketchy, as Doc Brown demonstrated nicely. Thank you, Doc Brown. I'll pay you later. No, I'm joking. He did that by mistake. Right, so we're going to carry on then. And you notice EWA1 up ahead. They absolutely slam on the anchors there. And I had to slam on as well. Now, I do see the Lexus coming, so I'd just give room there at that point. I could have gone defensive, but I'd rather stay, you know, very, I don't know what the word is. Standard, same line. Don't move drastically. Allow the faster car approaching to just go by, because otherwise it would cause a crash. As you saw then, another little bit of a crash there, EWA into somebody else. So just struggling with the circuit. Please do practice before you jump into any of these. I do a couple of laps myself before jumping into these, as we're about to see Dembilo go for it. And a move and a half on Buddha line. Unfortunately, I don't think that's the cleanest of moves in my opinion. There was contact there, and unfortunately the NSX off there. So I'm not sure whether Dembilo apologised after that. I do not know. As we head into this right-hander then. And then the left. He just got to balance the car here. We just go a little bit wide there. Now, some of you Bright Sparks may have noticed that we're starting on the racing medium tyre. Of course, we always start on the slower tyre. And you see Real Hollywood there going to the left. Debilio, legend. Thank you for giving me slipstream here as we race past Real Hollywood here in towards the left. I have to lift off a little bit because I'm not sure about dirty air and come around this corner. As you see, it might have been a bit sketchy flat out. In towards the braking zone we go, and the Italian decides to go for it here. They do get it stopped, however, they just got a little bit deep here, and unfortunately that just pushes us off a tiny bit. We survive, but it costs us time. And time is of the essence in this race, I've got to say. So we catch up to Real Hollywood again. They go defensive, but at this point I know they're going to try and outbrake me, so I'll let them outbrake themselves, really. So they come through here. I lift off a little bit to avoid hitting them, and we carry on then towards this left-hander. However, you're going to see up ahead, there's a little bit of carnage about to appear. As you see, the Swede just gets his tyres kicked in terms of the curve on the inside. That forces him off wide, and we get the place. That's P14. A little bit of carnage there for you. We all like a bit of drama occasionally. Now, speaking of drama, we have big drama coming up as well. So, we've caught up to the back of this pack. Debilio's been making his way through here as well. But obviously, with us losing time previous events, it has really cost us a lot. However, we're not involved in this chaos happening ahead. So somebody goes deep into the barrier. Someone hits them. They go flying. We've got French Freddy. They are going a bit slow. So they were involved in the incident as well. So we make 3 places. I say you buy 1, you get 2 free. Yes, we do indeed. That's 3 spots here. And some lovely racing with Fred as well. Thank you, Fred. That was lovely to do. But up into P11. But I'd already decided at this point the tyre wear wasn't that significant. So I was going to come in the pits because the traffic was going to hold me up. I wasn't expecting the carnage, and that's why I was also going to come in the pits, but we made it pass. I knew our FO was on softs. Now looking back at it, maybe I should have stayed out a bit longer, but anyway, we come in the pits, put the soft tyres on, and now we're going to do the pit stop time all the way to the last corner, because as you see here, EWA comes flying by. So you're constantly losing time here all the way to the corner, and you'll see that later on as well. And what we'll do, we'll measure it when we get to the 100-meter board, because that's the braking zone, and it's around 18 seconds. So just be wary of that. So through we go. And what we will do is advance a bit further on, because we do catch up to EWA1 as they outbrake themselves going into that right-hander. So I'm looking on the inside. Now I have to lift off quite a lot there as they came back to the line, but I was already there. Some good racing with EWA1. Just a bit unfortunate there and with the mistake. So we catch up to the NSX. That was punted off earlier on. And I was a bit unsure where they were going to brake, and they it was so early on the brakes. I'm so glad I looked to the outside. Little tap there, that's nothing major. That's just, racing incident. I have no issues with that at all. But we get past Hooder line, no problemo. So we drive a bit further ahead. This is what I mean. Look at the speed difference. You've got to be so careful when people are coming out the pits because the speed difference is massive. Just be careful of that. It really, really is scary. Especially if that driver came out a little bit earlier on, Hectic Aaron. It'd have been right on the apex, and that would have been a crash. You do have to be very careful. Very sketchy pit exit there. Coming through here, we're looking at the Spaniard then, who came in on softs and has come out on mediums. And we're looking down the left. It'll be a bit sketchy to try, but we look all the same. Unfortunately, Aaron just hits the Spaniard. That forced us to lose a whole bunch of time again. Obviously, it was a mistake by Aaron because he let off completely there. Allowed the Spaniards to go, allowed me to go as well. And we continued racing. So I catch up to the Spaniard once again, and I'm thinking, right, I need to go for the move here. I need to get past. So down the inside we go, and what a dive that is. That is a perfect dive. If you want an example of a dive that is clean, that is it. I made the apex. It was absolutely fine. I stopped on the apex as well. Beautiful racing. Right, lap guide time. Let's show you what's happening because we're in the middle of nowhere. So we advanced a fair number of laps. So this grey bit here, where the track disappears and rejoins, etc., use that as your turn-in marker. And you can do this flat. You've just got to be careful about your line, but you can do it flat, as you saw with Doc Brown on lap 1, minute 1. Now, heading towards this corner. On the right-hand side, you see this more on bonnet cam, but you notice a gap in the wall there. At the end of that gap, that's where you want to brake. Now, I would stay in second gear if I was you. Just allows the car to be a bit more stable through the corner, and then you can accelerate out absolutely fine. Now, I chose this lap because this is probably my best lap out of all of them, even though I've got very worn tyres. This right-hander, you want to turn just before the end of the grey curbing on the left. Now, you actually want to change gear as you start to do this. This will stop some of the understeer. As you'll see now, I'm going to go up to 5th gear, and notice that I do a tiny little bit of a lift, and I can carry on, but I carried a lot of speed there, so try and practice that. And up to this corner. This is a hard corner to get right. So you've got the orange and blue barriers on the left-hand side. Use the end of the barriers as a brake marker. Now, you want to straight line the braking, so point at the corner here, and then brake, and then I lifted off the brakes a tiny bit to straighten up a bit more. Do not try and turn full lock left as you're full-on braking. You will just spin and cause carnage. Don't do it. So literally, aim for the corner, brake. As you pass that first little left, then you can come off the brakes a little bit, turn, and then slam on again, or just keep 100% braking and aim towards the corner. That's the best way to do it. This right-hander then, use Bill and Brian here, the marshals, on the left-hand side. Use them as your brake marker and third gear. And I've got a good acceleration marker for you here as well. So third gear, we're coming in, and I'm specifically looking for that billboard there. The minute that appears on my screen, and you can see I've done it already, I go full throttle because I should make the corner. Sometimes, depending on your line, you might just have to lift a tiny bit, but use that as your marker. It's a really nice marker. Head towards this left then, and there's two markers here. Now, I was using the 50-meter board, but braking just before it, so around 60 meters, I guess. However, when the trees hit the right-hand side of your screen, you could use that as a marker instead, and that's why I've highlighted it here, because that might be a more consistent marker for you to use if you struggle judging distances just that teeny tiny little bit. Through there is generally flat out. You'll have to lift a little bit for the right, but sometimes you can do it flat. Now, coming into this last part, this is where you want to start prepping the car. So before the end of that curb there, I start to lift off the throttle and apply a tiny bit of braking. Not 100%, but a tiny bit of braking. And you see there a little bit, and then I want to brake 100% before the end of that curb. Reason being, if you go flat out into this, you're going to understeer far to the right-hand side and have a terrible line for this. You want to get this line right. Better to get this right than the previous corner right, because you can nail it out of here and have a good run down the start-finish straight. And what we're going to do now, advance a bit further on, because we've been chasing this German, because we want to get out of the cursed position. And we were chasing hard here. I think they're on the medium tyres. I think they're very well worn here. As we head towards the left-hander then, can we catch the German? They were under a lot of pressure. That gap was coming down. And unfortunately, they decided they want to date with Barrier rather than race us. So thank you so much, mate. Remove the curse for me. Happy days. We're going to head towards the line then and finish the race. As you can see on the minimap, lots of gaps, lots of big gaps. This was the problem with this lobby. The skill gap was too large. And that's what you experience when it's fast cars. Why I prefer some of the slower races with Group 4, for example. You can obviously get a much closer racing. But even so, you can see there the gaps increasing. That is going to be it for this week, folks. I do hope you've enjoyed this week's weekly race guide, as always. If you do have any recommendations in terms of any improvements you want, do shout and let me know. I'm all caught up with YouTube comments pretty much. But in terms of video choice, there are two videos there that you can check out. So please do check them out. They're all very well and good. Please give it a like. Please subscribe to the channel. Stay in touch. I hope to see you in another video or live stream very soon.